You're listening to the Music Tech Teacher podcast, episode number 29. Welcome to the Music Tech Teacher podcast. Music tech tips, lesson ideas, advice, news, and interviews, especially for music teachers. Brought to you by midnightmusic.com.au. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Music Tech Teacher podcast. I'm your host, Katie Wardrobe from midnightmusic.com.au. Today I chat to Vanja Steinholz, who is the business developer for the online recording software application Soundtrap, which I've actually mentioned in a couple of earlier episodes. Before we get stuck into our chat, I wanted to let you know about a project that I'm currently working on. It's a collection of done-for-you lesson plans that use free interactive websites. And really, I started working on this quite some time ago because I keep getting asked similar questions all the time. Like, what sort of simple things can I do with technology in my music classes, even if I'm not very tech savvy? Is there anything that I can use which is free? Or questions like, I've just found out my students will have Chromebooks in the new school year. What can I use with those? And some of you have been looking for new or engaging ways that you can teach or reinforce musical concepts. And in the end, I've decided to put together this collection of lesson plans, which I've descriptively called Super Simple Music Tech Lessons Using Free Websites. And I'm really excited about it. It's a culmination of ideas that I've been using for a number of years in workshops. And I'm actually doing a staggered release of these lessons into my online community for music teachers, which is called the Midnight Music Community. So the first 10 or so lessons will be ready next week at the time of recording. And it's currently mid-August, so in the sort of latter part of August. And they're going to be followed by another batch soon after that. I've got a list of about 25 to 30 that I want to get in there, and they have written lesson plans and videos to accompany them, which are like a teacher walkthrough, and some other information about each of the websites as well, so that you've got that really handy. Now, if you're interested in finding more out about these lesson plans, you can go to midnightmusic.com.au/simple music tech. And I'll put that link into the show notes along with the other information that Vanja and I talk about in today's episode. And if you visit that link and put your details in, I'll make sure that you don't miss out on any information about the special offer that's going to come out soon to join the community, so you can get access to those lesson plans and everything else that's in there. I hope you enjoy my chat with Vanja Steinholz. Vanja Steinholz studied music and media production at the Royal College of Music in Stockholm and currently works as a business developer at Soundtrap, which is also located in Stockholm. She's a freelance musician and works with teenage students at Ritmus High School, teaching them arranging, composing and songwriting skills, as well as music production skills. She's very well travelled thanks to her jazz musician parents, who have taken her to Ethiopia, Australia, Singapore, South Africa and all over Europe. And that started with a trip to Paris when she was just 7 weeks old. So welcome, Vanja, to the podcast, and tell us about the travel. It sounds amazing. It sounds like you got a lot done at a very early age.
Wow, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Well, yeah, music has really been a really important part of my life, and since my parents are musicians as well, that really shaped my childhood as well. We traveled a lot. I'm an only child, and I spent a lot of time on the road together with grown-ups playing in their bands and saw a lot of the world. So that was really cool. And I guess that was the starting point for me and the reason why I chose to work with music as well.
That's excellent. Yeah. I grew up both with, both of my parents were also music teachers. And so we grew up with a lot of music as well in the house. And me and my brother both ended up, playing instruments and as musicians. And so I just remember sitting in on lots of rehearsals. That was the big thing that we had to do. We got dragged around to a lot of rehearsals all the time, and we had to sit quietly in the corner, and everyone commented how good we were. But I realised at that time, and it sort of seemed boring when we were kids, but I realised how much music sort of just came to us by osmosis almost. You know, we sort of soaked up so much when we were at those rehearsals, and then there were a lot of singing, you know, choral rehearsals. And then later on in life, of course, we both ended up singing in the choirs that Mum and Dad were directing and part of. And I knew all this music so well because we'd grown up with it for so many years. So I'm guessing it was the same for you. Yeah. And what
I can really relate. I remember falling asleep under my mom's grand piano when they rehearsed.
I used to sit under mine as well. Oh my gosh! So she was a pianist, and so what instruments did they play? So piano, obviously, for your mum.
Yeah, and my dad is a bass player.
Excellent. Yeah. Oh, that's really great. Yeah, so much fun. I think it's a great thing, and lots of people say, "Oh, no wonder you ended up being a musician or, you know, music teacher because of that background." And I guess it's true. Really, they never were intending us to be musical necessarily, but it just ended up that way. So, and I'm thankful for it nowadays. I think it's a really great thing having that background.
Yeah, me too.
And the ear training skills, I think that was one of the things I'm very grateful for, because spending so much time around music all the time meant that our ear training skills were very good, and so that was a good thing. Very useful later in life. So you're working at Soundtrap. How did you end up working at Soundtrap? What led you to that position?
So it all happened in the spring of 2015. By then I was a freelance musician, 100%, and I got this call from a friend of mine who did his internship at Soundtrap, and all I've heard about it so far was that it's this really cool studio. It's online, and you can record together with others, and you don't need to be in the same room. You can actually record at the same time, but I could be in Stockholm and my friend could be in Melbourne. Yeah. So, and I got this question from him to work as support manager, basically just a few hours a week because of my music production background. And of course, I was really interested, but I didn't expect it to become this journey that it has become. First time I visited the office, I really got the vibe of this small group of driven people and really talented people, and I was so inspired by that. And it's also been a great place where I've been able to grow, and going from support manager for a few hours a week and now working with business development. So it's been really exciting.
Yeah, it's great. Yes, I've had a support position in the past with Sibelius, and I was kind of thrown into that, and it's the best way to learn intimately about a software product and how it works and things like that. And there's lots of questions that you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can answer that, but it's really good for you. Right. And my tech skills.
You learn a lot. Yeah. You learn a lot about people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I know exactly what you mean without having to say anything. Yeah, hard work, but it is really good. Yeah, it's almost a thing that everybody should do, you know, if you want to get into that sort of software world. It's almost like a rite of passage, I think you should go through just to get the other side of things and how things work. So tell, just for people who might not, I've talked about Soundtrap a lot, you know, on the podcast in the past, and it's come up, and we talked to Meredith Allen, who's a Soundtrap ambassador as well, and so that was great chatting to her. Yeah, she's great. Fabulous. She's doing some great stuff. But tell people a little bit more, say from an education perspective. You mentioned it's an online studio, so tell people a little bit more about how it works and you know, that side of things.
Of course. So Soundtrap is a collaborative online recording studio. It's basically I know actually that Meredith used to say that it's like if Google Docs and GarageBand had a baby, that would be Soundtrap.
That's exactly true. That? I think she did say that in the podcast. I remember laughing about that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that's a good way to put it if you're familiar with those tools, because it's a place where you can record your music and podcasts and language exercises, basically any audio. And since it's online, it works on all devices, and it's collaborative. So you could actually video chat and text chat with the people that you are creating stuff with. And you don't need to be in the same room.
Yeah, no, I love that aspect. I think that's probably the biggest point of difference, because Soundtrap, of course, is, you know, has similar attributes to things like GarageBand, which you mentioned, and, you know, there's lots of other software programs that people are using. And I think Soundtrap, the biggest point of difference is that collaboration side of things and the ability to do that. And that's been a focus for Soundtrap all along, really, and such a great thing for the classroom, because a lot of, you know, the sort of the trend in education and, you know, getting students to work together is this collaboration side of things. So it's really great and so much fun. Right. I haven't had a big chance to actually try it out myself with many other people. So I'll have to set up some projects and do that, just see how it goes. But yeah, it's really great. And great. Just tell us about I'm interested in the history of Soundtrap and how it started. I did talk to Frederick, who's one of the co-founders. He and I had a chat via Skype at some point, and that was really, really interesting to hear from him a little bit more about Soundtrap. So can you share that with everyone as well?
Sure. Soundtrap started in Stockholm in around 2011, 2012. We still have our headquarters in Stockholm, Sweden. And it started off with a goal to really democratize music making. And there were three guys starting it: Björn Melinder, Fredrik Posse, and Gabriel Sjöberg. And shortly thereafter, our CEO, Per Emanuelsen, joined them. So that team, I think they were the perfect mix of musicians and, you know, visionaries and engineers. It was a perfect blend, and they came up with this idea to make this online studio and to make it possible to use on any device.
And the education focus, was that a focus from the start, that it would become an education tool, or was it just for any musician really?
It wasn't at all, actually. In 2013, the beta version was released, and a few people started to use it. And suddenly we saw this trend that a lot of teachers started to use it in the classroom, and they asked, they came with suggestions for us on how to use Soundtrap in the classroom. And, you know, we didn't think at all of the possibility to make podcasts or anything like that. Yeah. It was really focused on music. But then all these great ideas from teachers came up, and we learned from them, and the development team started to implement a lot of the ideas that came from teachers. And in 2015, we were voted the best learning tool of the year in the US by the American Association of School Librarians. And that was really like a huge surprise to us. And we just realized that we really need to get into this and take it seriously and listen to the teachers.
Yeah, because I'm guessing it's a massive proportion of the users would be educators now. Is it? Are there more educators using it, you think, than non-educators?
I'm not sure about that, but we definitely have a lot of. I assume it's almost 50%. Teachers and students using it in the classroom.
Yeah. And I saw that award as it came up as well, and I can't even remember when I discovered Soundtrap whether someone had emailed me, maybe Frederick even, or whether I discovered it accidentally, because that happens a lot. You know, you run across things online, and it looked so great. And I thought it was funny that the award came from the Librarians Association, because whenever I see online studio or that type of thing, I'm always thinking music, and that it would be the music teachers that would be pushing that. But really fascinating that it's that it was the Librarian Association that had that award, which means that it's being used a lot in a non-musical way. And you mentioned
it was a clear sign.
It's really good. Yeah. And so you mentioned the Librarian Association and podcasts as well. I mean, that's something that I suggest, to music teachers to do in class as a project, is to kids can create their own podcast about any topic, really. I mean, it works in any subject area, because basically the podcast becomes a verbal assignment or report about whatever topic they're talking about. And so in music, it could be, they might do a composer's podcast or something, and a great sort of topic to do. But what other sorts of ways are the non-music teachers using Soundtrap in the classroom, apart from podcasts, for instance? You mentioned the language teachers, actually. I'm fascinated about them.
There are so many ways. Since we have this collaborative tool, it's actually possible for schools to connect with other schools in other parts of the world. And, in English class in Melbourne, they could connect with a Spanish school in Spain and actually teach each other English versus Spanish.
Yes,
and that's really cool.
Yes.
And also it becomes more and more common to integrate arts in core subjects such as math and science. So we have examples of 8-year-olds making their own songs about the solar system, or finding other ways to remember the facts that you learn in school. But the podcasts part is huge as well.
Wow,
and of course
great.
That could include any subject. Storytelling as well.
Yeah, storytelling that's one of my favourite things to do. I often do sort of film scoring projects, but storytelling is my lead-in activity, before the film scoring part, because it's a very similar type of project. So, you can get kids to read a story, and it's nice, that idea. Lots of people do that idea where they take a children's book, and the student will read that, but then they'll add their own soundtrack to it, or sound effects and that sort of thing, introductory music and outro music, and so much fun. But great cross-curricular activity, I think, too. And I think a lot of subject areas, there's a big focus on multimedia as part of their, student assignments, which is great. So I would imagine Soundtrap would fit very well in that. This episode of the Music Tech Teacher podcast is brought to you by the Midnight Music Community. The Midnight Music Community is an online space for music teachers who'd like help using technology in their music lessons. There are online courses, video tutorials, lesson plans, music tech news, and professional development certificates are provided for any training that you undertake. I'm inside the community every day, personally answering members' questions and sharing tips and ideas. The best thing is that you get to connect with hundreds of other music teachers just like you and share your own experiences and occasional music tech frustrations. For more information and a special joining price just for the listeners of this podcast, visit midnightmusic.com.au/podcast offer. That's midnightmusic.com.au/podcast offer. And then the take up by music teachers too. I mean, what sorts of things are music teachers using Soundtrap for?
So one thing that is really unique about Soundtrap when it comes to music teaching is that you can do homework in a collaborative way. That you can actually, you can practice if you have choir lessons for Christmas or something, you could actually practice your part, and you can record it, and you can listen to the other ones. And so if the teacher, let's say, record 4 voices in a Soundtrap project, you can just mute one of those tracks and sing it on your own, and then you can record it. And if you are practicing guitar or singing songs and practicing guitar, one of your classmates could record the guitar and you can record the voice, and you don't have to be in school or at a school computer to do that, but you could actually use any device at home, and you can still be in touch with your classmates.
Yeah, that's really great. And I think that's one of the other things that attracted me to Soundtrap too, was the ability to use any device, because even though there are lots of other, digital audio workstations, and even there's a few other online type studios, and not many of them work across all devices. So that was a big bonus for me running workshops. It's really nice to have something to suggest that works for everybody. And I love that idea. I think people don't quite realise that it's so great, because, you access your projects just by logging in online. So you can log in from anywhere. And so it means a student can start on a Mac laptop at school, and then they can get home and pick it up on an iPad there, or, their dad's PC computer, and, just continue the same project. And that's really, really attractive and useful.
Yeah, that's a great point, because it's so common with BYOD schools nowadays, and students have different devices. And as you say, it can also become a problem when you have your schoolwork at a school computer or a school device, and it's a problem to actually send them back and forth. But this way you can just open them at soundtrap.com. You don't need to send anything back and forth. It's all there in the cloud. So, yeah.
And there's no excuses now for the students. They have no excuse. Yeah. I left it at school. Too bad.
Exactly.
And I'm guessing
one doesn't work.
Yeah. I'm guessing with the growth in education that, I know that things would have had to have changed from a technical point of view in terms of the privacy laws and that type of thing. Because I know Soundtrap, there's a special education sort of, area that you log into, so that it's a private area, and, you get your own website or your own Soundtrap area to work with your school students, so that it's all not available to anyone in the world. I think that's a fear that a lot of teachers have when I run workshops. It's like, but who else can see this work? So, so tell us about that.
Yeah, we have a few really unique features when it comes to school usage, since we offer a complete safe environment for students. It's called COPPA, so the teacher could actually choose to have an open account or a walled garden. And in a walled garden, which is preferred especially for younger kids, the students will be able to connect with each other inside of the walled garden, but not with the outside world, and vice versa. If you have an open account, you can do, you can connect with people from all around the world. But when you have younger students, I strongly suggest that you would use the walled garden, and that's a really unique thing that we actually can offer that for teachers now, which I'm really happy about that. Yes. And we also we're integrated with a few score programs, so you could actually see your music as sheet music. And we're integrated with Google Classroom and Music First and Schoology. So we have a few integrations as well that makes it more convenient for the teacher.
Yeah, I love all those integrations. I think that's often the next stage. It's like you find this great thing, and then one of the first things I check when I look at any app or software program is what can I do with it? Where can I export it? How easy is it to send it somewhere else? Because there's always a need to do that. You go back and forth, a few times often with things like notation versus just the sound of the project. And so it's so great. I know the Google Classroom edition was a big thing, the integration with Google Classroom. So I'm guessing that's just been fabulous. And so many people are using Google Classroom now. I think there's been a massive growth in that. So that I bet there was a really good reaction when that was announced, was there?
It was, and people still get really excited when they hear that we have that integration, since it becomes really, if you're already a Google Classroom user, it becomes so easy to invite students from Google Classroom, and you can create assignments, Soundtrap assignments that pops up in the stream in Google Classroom. So it's really a smooth connection there between the two.
Students are then using their Google Classroom login to access Soundtrap, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, and I think that's one of the big barriers, or not big barriers, but maybe it's a small hurdle, maybe even just a mental one for teachers who want to take on another online tool. It's like, oh no, I have to load all my students into the new tool, or I have to set up usernames and passwords. But that integration must make things a lot easier. Just a click of a button, really. Yeah, that's really great. And apart from us setting assignments through the classroom interface, what else? And once the students completed an assignment in Soundtrap, then they can send it back to the teacher through Google Classroom, or just through Soundtrap itself?
Through both. Actually, as soon as you, as a student, click save, the teacher will access the project. So the teacher will find it on their profile page on Soundtrap. Excellent. And also you can put in, you can do a hand in sound. You can hand in the assignment in Google Classroom, and in that way you kind of ping the teacher that I'm ready now.
Yes, so, yeah. Oh, that's really great. Yes, that makes life so much easier, I think. And there's a couple of other integrations. I use Groove Pizza a lot, which is an online sort of drum sequencer, which I love. And I like the fact that you can just click a button and send whatever you've created in the Groove Pizza drum sequencer straight to Soundtrap, and then continue there, because things like that just are so fabulous, because Groove Pizza does what it does really well, which is create drum patterns in a unique way. And then you often think, oh, I'd love to add my voice over the top of this, or a guitar. And so sending it to Soundtrap allows you to do that, which is really great. So I've been using that one quite a lot too. And nice. You mentioned the notation program. So Noteflight is one that is integrated with, isn't it? And is it Flat as well, flat.io?
Yes, we're integrated with Flat.io and with Noteflight. So that's the two sheet music partners we have right now.
Yeah, because some teachers that I work with focus a bit more primarily on the notation side of things. So this would make them, quite happy that they can send things back and forth quite easily and work in that notation view. And then other teachers work at schools where really the sound is more the focus, and recordings and that sort of thing. And then some places do both equally. So it's really great to have the options to do that. That's excellent. Mm-hmm. And tell us about, I'd love to know two more things. One is the Soundtrap expert course, which I know is a course that's available online for anyone to take. And is that a free course that sort of walks you through all the basics of Soundtrap? And as a teacher, really, it's intended for teachers to use, isn't it?
So we offer 2 free courses online. If you Google Soundtrap Academy, you'll find them both. And we have the Soundtrap teacher course, which is really, that one is very focused on the teacher use case. And then we have the Soundtrap expert course, which is more of an in-depth course of the studio. Right. So the combination is excellent, if I may say so. So if you start off with a teacher course, you learn everything about the administrative tools, how you can create groups, how you use the integrations with Google Classroom and Schoology and so forth, how to create assignments for your students. And you get a lot of inspirational videos and material for how to use Soundtrap in your classroom. And if you want to, you can continue with a Soundtrap expert course to get even more knowledge about the actual studio.
Excellent. And I'm just thinking also that students could do that expert course if they wanted to learn more in depth as well. I'm often saying in workshops, the teacher doesn't need to know everything about a software program, because the students can, especially if they're a little bit older. I'm thinking sort of grade 5 and upwards, for instance. I'm thinking of my own kids, which are around that age. They're quite capable of going to find out how something works. And so I think it's really important to encourage them to do that, and that as a teacher you don't have to know everything yourself. But the admin side of things definitely is good to get a grasp on all of that, so you know how that works.
Yeah.
And then the basics too.
Exactly. But as you say, you can, if you are starting to use Soundtrap in the classroom, you could really start off by actually doing the expert course together with your students.
Yeah,
that's a great way to start.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And we have these little quizzes where you get questions, and you can so you can see the progress all the way through the course.
Yeah, excellent. And I have to say that the videos are really, really good quality. And, you know, when I started watching them a while ago, I think I've hooked up my Vimeo video account. I follow the Soundtrap channel, so that's really good. And I see when new ones come out. And but they're really good quality, and they're very nicely paced and easy to follow, which is refreshing because, you know, so many tutorials that if you go to YouTube, you can often find tutorials for stuff, but man, the quality variation is very big. And so, you know, you start watching something and you're like, oh God.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love YouTube, and I love there are a lot of our users that creates their own videos, and they put it up on YouTube, and they teach other users how to do certain things in Soundtrap, and that's really, really cool. But I agree that it's good to have one place where you know what you get.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the sound quality is often the thing. You know, I read something somewhere about that I think it's the biggest thing that makes someone stop watching a video is bad audio quality. It's actually not the picture. It's not what you're watching. It's the audio quality. So, you know,
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? So if you just have a little microphone plugged in to pick up your audio while you're talking through your tutorial, it's a much better option. And I mean, obviously the Soundtrap ones, which are made by Soundtrap, are very good quality. So yeah, so that's one of the good things. Very, very interesting. And I mean, the ambassador program, I'd love to just finish on the ambassador program. That's really strong. I've noticed, there's a few software companies that have, you know, people who use their product regularly and they have them as ambassadors, which is fabulous. But I think the Soundtrap program seems to be very strong. I see a lot of Soundtrap ambassadors posting and sharing stuff that they're doing on Twitter and Facebook and things like that. So tell us about that. How does someone become an ambassador, and what are the sorts of things that they do as part of that?
The ambassadors that we have, they are so important to us, and they have all, you know, we've found them because they have shown their enthusiasm for Soundtrap, connected us on on our social media and so on. And they're just, you know, I mean, I can't take any, what's it called?
Like credit?
Exactly. So I can't take any credit for the fabulous work that they are doing, because they're just great people, and they obviously love the product very much and have a lot of usage for it, and see how the students can evolve and get inspired in the classroom. So that's really a wonderful thing. And if somebody who listens are interested in becoming an Australian ambassador, because we're quite new in Australia, and there might be other people around the world listening as well, please just write us on social media. We're on Twitter, and we're on Instagram and Facebook as well. So
I'll put links to all of those accounts in the show notes so people can connect.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I've watched, I see what Meredith is doing quite a lot, and yeah, she's great. She shares lots of things, and she's been presenting at conferences as well, hasn't she? Some of the music conferences, and sharing her stuff there. So yeah, I think it's always good to have those people that are totally enthusiastic and using it in the field. You know, they're actually using it with students and that sort of thing. That's great.
Right.
It's been fabulous to talk to you and hear more about Soundtrap. I'm fascinated. When I was talking to Frederick, we were talking about some interesting things. One of the things that he said which fascinated me was, because I commented on the the look and feel of Soundtrap in the browser, the colour scheme that's been used, and the fact that it's really pleasant to look at because it's quite light in colour. The background is light, and then there's nice. I'm a little bit obsessed with colour, but there's nice colours on the timeline area when you've recorded something. It's sort of pinks and purples and greens, and it's really nice to look at. And he was actually saying that one of the intentional things about Soundtrap when they were making it was to make it more appealing to girls, to females, because so many of those digital audio workstations are very dark and heavy looking in colour, and, the way they look, they're quite masculine. And so one of the intentional things was to make it a little bit more even across the board. So I found that really interesting, and hopefully it does mean that there's more females, encouraged to use it and to get into it.
No, I think that's a really important part of Soundtrap's communication in colors, and also in our videos and tutorials. We always try to mix it up with, it's both, and it's not really like an effort we're doing, because at the office we're 50-50 music producers, male and female. So we just try to make it accessible for everyone, and it seems like it's working, because I know a lot of tools, or I know a few other tools that have a percentage of 5 female users and 95 men.
That's crazy. And that's a massive difference. Huge. Yeah.
It's a huge difference, and we have almost 40% female users and 60% male, and that's among everyone as well. That's including the consumer version as well, of course. So on both the consumer and education side. Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah, that's really good to hear. Yeah, it's something that is a good thing to sort of encourage, I think, amongst females, and break down the barriers, because it's so much fun. I love spending time doing things like this, recording, and I wish I had more time to do it, but anyway.
Yeah, me too.
I always wish I could go away for not really a vacation, but kind of like a creative vacation where, you spend, say, 2 weeks maybe with some other people who are doing the same thing. And actually a group of friends that I've talked about this, people who are quite into music technology, we've talked about going away for a week and just all showing each other stuff in different software programs and apps and iPad things and devices and hardware. And
can I come?
Yeah, sure. Open
Sounds so great.
It would be awesome. I would just love it. And to have that time set aside, it's almost like you need to set aside the time to do that. And I never get there in the week. It's always too, it's lower down on the priority list, but I think I need to do that. I need to make some time. I've got a growing list of
You are doing this podcast. That's quite cool.
That's true. I know. And that is
everyone has their own podcast.
Yeah, that's right. That is quite a little bit creative too. But even things like, I love to do live looping on the iPad, and I'd love to spend more time doing that and make some videos about that. But anyway, one day I'll do this creative vacation and get a lot done then, maybe. Sounds fun. Thank you so much for chatting today. It's been really great, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens. No problem at all. I'll put links in the show notes to the 2 courses, the Soundtrap Academy, the courses that we talked about, and to the social media accounts as well, so people can hook up there if they need to. And yeah, it'd be great. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next with Soundtrap. So thank you.
Me too.
All right.
Thank you so much.
The Music Tech Teacher podcast is hosted by me, Katie Wardrobe. You can find more information and links from today's episode at midnightmusic.com.au/29. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.